Experience.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Keith Weber, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, we meet. I've worked out to your voice many times, your sleek, athletic body on the beach, slinging kettlebells, making people work out along. And we got you on the podcast, man. I've been talking about your videos for I don't know how long. I don't even know where I found it. I found it somewhere online. You know, I was looking for some video to work out to, and it was so badass, you know, that we started selling it at onit.com. It became like our best-selling DVD. You were constantly out of stock because we were selling them out for you. But it's a fucking awesome video, man, so it's good to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Joe. It's amazing to be here.
What's the book? You got notes and shit.
Well, I thought I should, just in case I forget something.
what would you want to bring up that you had to write down?
Well, you know, I thought I'd be really nervous, and I thought maybe there'd be some important stuff I forgot about. There's some parts of the video that are really hilarious that I didn't want to forget to mention because I've looked on the internet about some of the comments people put, and most of them are actually positive, the ones I've read. And there's a few that are quite hilarious, especially then most hilarious ones are obviously the negative ones. So.
Yeah, the closer you can get to this thing, the better, because it's very directional.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You're always going to get negative comments, man, no matter what, especially if it's a workout DVD. This workout's too hard. I'm not a meathead. I'm just someone looking to be fit. I don't like the way he works out. He tells me what to do. I get sand in my eyes when I did his workout on the beach. The beach is a good place to work out, though, because you get that feeling of humbleness, like you're connected to that ocean behind you, and you also just the roar of the ocean and the feeling of the sand, and it's a great surface, it's a super good surface to run on. If I think more people lived by the beach, we'd have a nicer, sweeter world.
I agree. The thing that blows me away whenever we always go on holidays at least 2 or 3 times a year to a tropical place because my wife and I and the kids love the beach.
Powerful white people. Powerful white privilege. Three times a year vacation.
Well, there's a story behind that. But
okay.
And when I see people running down the beach with running shoes, I just want to tackle them and fix their feet.
You want to fix their feet?
Yeah, because feet are fixable.
What's wrong with most people in running shoes? Running shoes are just bad for you?
I wouldn't run a marathon without running shoes. That would be crazy.
Because of the pounding?
Well, yeah. Have you ever read the book Chi Running or Born to Run? Anything like that?
No, I've never read anything on running because there was a great comic named Bill Hicks who used to make fun of Jim Fixx, the guy who had the running books.
Right.
Because he was like, what are you writing about? Left, right. Done. Faster.
Yeah. It's amazing because we're in Venice Beach right now, and a lot of people run in Venice Beach. And I totally get why runners get a bad rap sometimes, because a lot of people are running that really shouldn't be running.
In what way?
They're not strong enough.
They're just not in shape enough to be running?
Yeah, and you really need to have a lot of strength to run properly. And
really? In how so? If you would take someone and they were thinking about starting out a workout routine, you would not recommend just running?
Never.
Never? Really? Yeah. Interesting. What would you recommend?
I wouldn't even recommend kettlebells right off the get-go, unless you know what you're doing and you have a good trainer.
Right.
I would recommend someone that's just fresh off the couch and they don't want to hurt themselves. Find somebody that can teach you how to do some compound lifting. Learn how to do squats again. Learn how to do deadlifts properly. Maybe learn how to do a pull-up. Maybe learn how to do a push-up properly. All those basic old-school exercises are so powerful.
Do you deal often with people that are starting from scratch? Because that seems to me to be a very daunting proposition for some folks who've been kind of couch potatoes their whole life, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, God damn it, I want to get fit. I really want to do something. I have a buddy who's really big, and he's been telling me lately he does a lot of shooting competitions. He does those tactical things where you run through a maze and you have to shoot at targets. But he's too big. It's like, God damn it, I got to lose some weight. But I could tell it's hard to just start doing that. It's hard to just change your lifestyle. We have patterns that we fall into. You know, you got your average everyday pattern. You get up in the morning, you eat some unhealthy shit. You go to an office, you sit in a cubicle, whatever you do. It's really hard to say, today after work at 6:30, I'm going to go and do jumping jacks and push-ups and chin-ups, and I'm going to get my shit together.
Exactly. And honestly, that is the main impetus for the video in the first place. And I come across people that I treat all the time that are, Keith, I want to get into shape, and you know, how do I do it? And that's what I do love about the kettlebells. Like, in a perfect world, I would have them learn how to do the compound lift slowly, but the kettlebells provide the same idea, same movement patterns without having to put a bunch of weight onto your body.
Right.
Like, it's amazing the inertia and the momentum created by these things. So, yeah, it's so I do get a lot of people in my kettlebell classes that are starting fresh, like amazing, like the women that come. Usually it's women. I don't know why. It's guys don't like to go out of that comfort zone, maybe.
You think that's what it is?
Well,
maybe just a handsome guy with long blonde hair and chicks are looking to hook up. They see you and they go, Weber, son of a bitch. I need to get him to teach me how to work out and then work my way into his life.
No, I don't think that's what it is.
You don't think that's what it is?
I honestly think women have a different mentality. I have a buddy I run hills with just out a couple blocks from our house. It's a perfect hill. If you bust your ass, it'll take you about 2 minutes, 20 seconds to get to the top. Like, that's absolutely giving it everything you have. So it's kind of the perfect length of a hill. Kind of taps into that mid-range energy system. And there's mornings, every morning in the summer, there's a group of women at this playground nearby at 6 a.m., like 20 of them, doing boot camps and push-ups and burpees and things like that. You'd never see 20 guys doing that. At least I haven't.
You would if they were in the military.
Good point.
That'd be probably it. But yeah.
Like, just on their own will and desire to be in good shape, most guys, unless they're professional athletes, if they're just the average guy that wants to look good and, you know, be like that guy in the fitness magazine, they don't like being in public, almost, I think.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, women don't mind working out at a park, like getting all together and
they love that.
Yeah. Well, that's more. I think they're a bit more social than us.
A little more social. So,
goes back to the hunter-gatherer thing or something, right?
Maybe,
doesn't it?
It probably
gatherers. They sat around and talked while the hunters are out being really quiet, sneaking up on shit. I've heard that. I don't know if it's true, but
yeah, they talk a little bit about that in the book Born to Run.
Yeah.
Even as a non-runner, I recommend that book to everybody because it will make you want to try running.
And running on the beach should be done barefoot?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way we're all supposed to run anyway, right? We're not supposed to run the way most people think because of those running shoes that you're supposed to go heel first.
Right.
Because they've sort of changed people's gaits with these shoes with this big fat pad near the heel, which is really unnatural, correct? Like, the way the foot is designed, you're supposed to land on the ball of the foot, and the foot is actually supposed to act as a bit of a shock absorber to slowly decelerate your weight. And that is how a natural gait is supposed to be performed when you're running, right?
Yeah. And there have been studies done where they've taken people and they've blindfolded them and looked at their gait patterns, and then they've put these big runners on, and they have a very similar gait pattern. It's almost like you take away that sensory ability of all those thousands of nerve endings in the bottom of the foot to actually feel what's going on. So your body subconsciously puts the brakes on and makes you heel strike. Yeah,
it's the heel strike thing really didn't happen until what was like the 1970s or something like that, when they came out with those running shoes. Isn't it amazing that they virtually changed the entire country, or really all over the world, the gait of people when they run by putting a big fat pad on the heel? Like, we never had that before.
No, and it creates a terribly unnatural gait, and it leads to a lot of injuries. But there are a lot of people that, even if they started running in a perfect scenario with the right shoes and everything, if they're not strong enough, it's going to lead to some problems.
That really is important, and it's one of the things that I always stress when I talk to people about the Onnit.com products that we sell, the kettlebells or the steel clubs, things along those lines. I'm like, please just start slowly. Men don't want to pick up an 18-pound kettlebell. They're like, bye, fucking bitch, I can work out with more. But your video with a 35-pound kettlebell kicks my ass. Just 35 pounds. You would think that's not that big. It's like a 4-year-old. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you can carry women carry 4-year-olds in their arm. You know, my wife carries our 4-year-old all the time. She's about 35 pounds. I mean, that's all that is. And you're doing this workout, and it's at the beginning. It seems like, wow, this is not that hard. But then a minute in, you're like, holy shit, how long is this going to be? And then you realize that just one kettlebell, just one simple 35-pound kettlebell, if you follow your workout, you can get an absolutely brutal routine in.
Yeah, it's and it's kind of for me, it's a measuring stick. I like to use my video at least once a month to test myself, make sure I'm not getting lazy or kind of starting to fall off the rails, because I'm just like everyone else. If I don't stay with it, I can get, a little bit lazy.
Yeah, everybody can if they don't have some sort of a goal, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the cool things about your video is just you have to keep up with it. Like I bought a bunch of videos before that were excellent. Like Maxwell has a bunch of videos, and Mike Mahler has a bunch of videos. And Mike Mahler is very much into technique and in showing the fundamentals of the movements and things along those lines. But what I really liked about yours is just you have to already know that shit, and it's just hardcore, ready, go. Let's do this.
And that was the big thing. When I first started doing kettlebells, I think in 2002, I think I took their second instructor's course with Dragon Door. There weren't any videos out there that just for people that knew what they were doing. And so I bought every video in the book. And I shouldn't say that. There were a couple that were for people that knew what they were doing. But they were, I just don't think they wanted to hurt anybody.
Right.
And I'd been teaching kettlebells by the time I made that first video for at least 3 years. And I'd seen what these, again, mostly women, housewives that were coming fresh off not exercising, and what they were putting themselves through. And they weren't getting hurt. They were just getting in really good shape. And so I thought, I'm going to put a video together like we do in class. And I did have a lot of requests from people saying, make a video. I can't make it to your class. I'd love to have something to just pop into the DVD player at home.
It would be awesome if there was something like a class or something, like a really common class that was taught where people that had never worked out before could all get together so they didn't feel like freaks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you don't like show up at the gym and there's all these fucking bros all studded up and screaming and throwing weights around and dropping them after they lift, and it's very intimidating. If there's a place you could go for folks who are just cubicle jockeys, what have you, people that are like, you know what, I just need something different. This is it. I'm gonna take this class. I'm gonna work out for the first time, like a first timer workout program. That would be awesome.
And I think honestly, kettlebells give you that. That's the closest thing you could ever get to something for everybody, because it's a lightweight, and it's such an equal stress on the body. Like you go to the gym, you'll do bench press and arms, and the next day you can't move. Your pecs and arms are just fried. Whereas the kettlebell, your whole body is fried, but not to the extent you can't move, as long as you're sensible about it. So
you're moving it all together, all as one movement, one unit rather. Yeah, I always find that it translates the best to actual athletics too.
Yeah.
That when you do things like deadlifts or squats or any big compound movement, it translates. Like you actually feel physically stronger when you do something like martial arts or grappling, things along those lines.
I think that has a lot to do with the acceleration too. Like that's the goal. It's like exercise. I love the thrust. It's an exercise I love to hate. It's because you have to develop a lot of acceleration to get that kettlebell over your head, especially when you're getting tired. That's why I like to put the thrusters after you've kind of done a couple exercises to fry the legs and shoulders. I think the Man Maker, I think it starts out with a thruster, but a lot of the other chapters, I kind of slide it in there when you're really fatigued, and it forces you to get that acceleration, and then that translates over to the strength. So,
do you ever work one-on-one with any MMA athletes?
I did, like we were talking about, I did work a little bit with Jason.
Jason McDonald.
Yeah.
We're talking about before the show.
And we went for, I'm not sure how many workouts, at least half a dozen. Because he was training like twice a day. So these were just sort of to supplement his training. Mm-hmm. And, but I think it was a little much with everything else he was doing. So, but I think he won his next fight, so maybe it helped.
That is a big issue with MMA fighters. It's like doing just the right amount.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to do too much so that you're burnt out when it comes to your skill training later on the night, like when it comes to like technique, martial arts technique. But a lot of guys do like to do their strength and conditioning first to wear themselves out so that when they do their sparring, they try to be more technical because they're already exhausted and they can't use strength. There's like two schools of thought when it comes to that.
Right.
You know, there's like one school of thought that says you should roll really tired. And then there's another school of thought that says you should do all of your strength and conditioning after you've done all your technique work. So your technique could be like as sharp as a razor. And then after, you could worry about getting sloppy when you're running up hills.
Yeah, you know, and that's really, it carries over almost to the strength training world as well, specifically. Like I know Pavel Satsulin, he's very much into strength with kettlebells.
He's one of the guys that brought kettlebells to America, right?
Yeah, I think he was teamed up with John Duquesne, and they sort of collaborated. And I think the story goes, John said he would publish a book for Pavel if he would sort of bring kettlebells to America and let him manufacture them.
Oh.
And
what year was this?
It must have been like late 90s.
So
And
before then, no kettlebells in America?
I think there were, but
A few.
I don't think it was as mainstream. I mean, I think it was one of those things that probably sat at the back of a gym and hadn't been touched in 20 years because no one knew what to do with this thing.
Right. Isn't that amazing? That something could be around in Russia for so long and didn't make it to America until the 90s. That's so weird.
Yeah, it's well, yeah. And when they first came out with kettlebells, they had 16, 24, and 32 kilogram sizes. That's it. And I came across kettlebells. Actually, Pavel would put articles in the odd. I don't know if you remember the magazine Muscle Media 2000, but
No.
it was Bill Phillips published that one, and he was the guy that first came out with the 30 or the 12-week body transformation challenge, and you could win a car. It was through EAS supplements, and anyway, I was in terrible shape. My son was just born, so I wanted to hang out at home with him and didn't go to the gym for like 8 months.
At all?
Maybe once a week I'd go, and I'd felt more and more pathetic every time I'd go. It was horrible. My son has a theory about that, but so I was in really rough shape, and I remember people that knew me were saying, "Hey man, you should do this body transformation challenge." And in my mind, I was still in awesome shape. I mean, oh yeah, good idea. You know, I think, why is everyone telling me this? But the key to that program was you're supposed to take a before picture. And I remember my wife took a before picture of me in the middle of winter. You know, didn't have UV light for 4 months at least, and I looked horrible. I actually.
You saved it?
I saved it. Yeah, I actually carry it around on my phone.
Just to let you know how
Yeah.
far you've come?
Well, and just even to remind me to stay disciplined.
Right.
Because, like I said, I'm just like everyone else. Like I can fall off the wagon pretty easily. But
So you took this before picture.
Yeah,
And then
and-
you did the challenge.
yeah, and then I fell in love with the whole Bill Phillips muscle media concept and read every magazine cover to cover, and I sent my pictures into Muscle Media, and I didn't win anything. I might have won a sports bag or something like that, but the after pictures were quite astounding comparatively. And I will admit, I had a bit of a tan, and I maybe got a haircut, and
You primped yourself up a little bit for the after
little
picture?
bit, but not to the point where a lot of people I knew that were doing the challenge did. Because I think that's just so not genuine. Like there was one guy, he was dehydrating himself for 3 days so he'd look more ripped. And
Oh,
you know what I mean?
that's
And there's
kinda
another
silly.
guy that was taking like loads of creatine so he could get pumped up a little bit more. And like
That's one of the things that everybody used to love about Fedor Emelianenko, the former Pride champion and one of the greatest mixed martial artists ever, is that he was always kind of dumpy. He had like a little gut, like a little spare time. He always like big, thick Russian dude, but never worried about what he looked like. He was just fit. And he was always in great shape too, which is really kind of astounding. Like the guy never gassed out. I mean, he was always in excellent shape and, never had a six pack in his fucking life. Not one time where he's fighting, at least.
Yeah, well, that's one thing with the sport I'm sort of doing now, at least in the summer. Our summers are really short, so I think that's why I do triathlon now.
You live in Alberta?
In Alberta,
Yeah, it's that summer is like a week long. You have a very short summer.
Yeah, it's and what we do get is oftentimes not so great.
It's so beautiful up there, though, man.
It is.
Oh God, I was up there in June. It's amazing. It's so gorgeous. So much trees and animal life and everything up there.
Yeah, it's very natural. It's
yeah. So anyway, you were saying
uh,
your winter times. Summer's very short.
Summer's short, and never judge a book by its cover. That's where I was going with that. Like, you'll have people doing these triathlons that are in front of you for most of the race, and they're huge, and they don't have the typical athlete body type at all, and they're just like thick guys that should be playing rugby or something like that, and they're still fast. So they must have a powerful engine under there to cart that carcass around that's 50 pounds heavier than me, or at least.
And also probably heavier than it should be.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are in really good shape, but they're fat. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I know this dude, I won't say his name, but he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's got a big fat belly. But that fucking guy doesn't get tired, man. You roll with him. He knows how to conserve energy, and he's under that belly. He's strong as shit.
Yeah.
Like his core and his legs and everything. He's very physically strong. But he's just got a lot of fucking pizza in his body.
Yeah, that's. I was thinking about that the other day. Why? Because people ask me a lot about what I eat, and I don't think I eat particularly crazy in terms of disciplined until I hang out with someone that I always wonder about. Like, and I won't say any names here, but there's a couple buddies I have that they do triathlons, they're working out all the time, they're doing stuff, but they got a little bit extra, and so. All I need to do is go for a bike ride with them. We're going to go for a 2 or 3 hour long bike ride to find out why. And during these bike rides, these guys will consume, like, I'm not even hungry. And we're into 1 hour of the ride. I'm just starting to warm up. And these guys they've already chowed down an energy bar. They're drinking this sugary Cytomax or whatever type solution with electrolytes in it.
Right.
And it's just like it's like a feast. This 3 hour bike ride turns into some sort of like Christmas dinner, and and they do that every time they train, and it's almost, I don't know what causes it, if it's like a human survival instinct that I'm exercising, so I gotta keep pounding food in, or what? But
I think it's just because they have the food right there. There was some study recently about rehydrating, and they were talking about like how much more people rehydrate if they're around things that taste good. Like if you have like sugary drinks, like a Gatorade type drink, like how much more you'll drink than if it's just water.
Right.
Yeah. We're just gross. We're gross and slovenly. And sugars, like those simple sugars, like those are really not good for you. I mean, you can get away with eating them after you work out because your body is sort of glucose craving. But the reality of those kind of sports drinks and stuff like that, it's like they're not fucking healthy for you at all. Those are corn syrup.
Well, look who owns them.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're
motherfuckers.
Well, I think most of those sports drinks are owned by companies that produce soft drinks.
Yeah, I'm sure. A lot of them are, for sure. A lot of them are, for sure. But they say that chocolate milk is the best thing to drink right after you work out. Is that true?
I guess it depends who you talk to. And I think this is based on some studies that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
But if you talk to anyone that's into Chinese medicine, or like my wife's really into Ayurvedic medicine, milk is the demon. It's like, what do they say? They say it's drinking pus. And
milk is drinking pus?
Yeah.
How's it drinking pus?
They hate milk.
Who are these people?
Well, anyone.
Have they ever eaten cookies? Because milk without cookies is just bullshit. Or cookies without milk, rather.
Yeah, there's a lot of people into this method of eating, and eating for your body type and everything. And anyone that's there's 3 things in Chinese medicine that cause a lot of phlegm. And in Chinese medicine, phlegm is not only what you hack up when you're exercising, but also energy blockages in the system. So the top of the list is dairy. Second is peanuts, and third are bananas.
You can't eat peanuts and you can't eat bananas?
No.
What kind of communist bullshit is this? What are they trying to say? Huh? Bananas?
I know.
What the fuck is wrong with bananas, man? I don't know if I buy this Chinese medicine shit. Well, are they the people that brought you rhino horns for hard-ons? Isn't that the same folks?
It is. Yeah, they do all sorts of crazy stuff.
How about tiger bone? Make you strong. No, it won't. Just kills a fucking tiger. Dumbass.
Yeah, so I take all this stuff with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Yeah, you should take it all with a couple grains of salt. Salt's good for you, but tiger bone, not so much. Are you into like that kind of acupuncture, acupressure, all that stuff?
Yeah, we do that at our clinic.
What kind of evidence is there that stuff works? Has there ever been like peer-reviewed studies on acupuncture?
Especially in Asia. There are a lot of studies in Asia. When I took the course initially, there was a lot of, again, studies from Asia that indicate, like MRI studies where they're, taking an MRI of a person's brain and poking needles in different points, and they're showing like major brain activity in different parts of the brain.
I've never understood it, but I've always like looked at it curiously because I'm like, wow, if so many people for so many years have been sticking needles into themselves, there's probably something to it, but like I've heard people criticize yoga, and one of the things they say about yoga is that it's just stretching. Like my friend Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, they did this episode of Penn Jillette's Bullshit, Penn and Teller's Bullshit.
Yeah.
You remember that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they did one on yoga where they were like, it's just stretching. It's just, and they were showing like, and I want to say, listen, man, this ain't cool. You guys are out of shape. You're not really working out. If you do yoga, it doesn't seem like it's anything more than stretching, but if you do yoga, you get high. That's just a fact. If you do like a Bikram's class, you do like a 90-minute yoga class, you will feel high at the end of it. It's just a fact.
Yep.
That is unavoidable. I mean, you can't deny that. It's undeniable. And to say that that's just stretching, that all you're doing is just moving your body around, man, I don't think so. Those skinny little motherfuckers from India have been doing that shit for 1,000 years for a reason. There's something to it. They've figured out something. They've figured out some way to tap into your endorphin system in some major way so that you get a big reward when you do like a long yoga class. It's a very peace sort of inducing movement or a series of movements.
Well, and it goes, a lot of these systems coincide with each other. So with Chinese medicine, they do qigong, and so that's all about bringing the breath in with the breath comes. Is
that like
qi.
breath of fire? Is that same thing?
Yeah, that's a variation of it. Qigong is more for healing yourself through energy cultivation. So you're bringing the energy in through your lungs, and then you're doing certain movements. Or Tai Chi is another good example, and you're stretching those energy meridians that go through your body while you're breathing in. So the in-breath brings the qi in, and then you do these particular movements that forces that qi down your meridians.
But what is qi, though? Has anybody ever like shown qi in an MRI? Like, what's going on when you say like you're forcing your qi? Is it circulation? Is it just your focus, your energy? Like, what is it?
It is that, and it's also, I believe that they've shown that there are electromagnetic forces going across our skin. Apparently, they found acupuncture points in cadavers. And
really?
It's an acupuncture.
Too late. It's not going to help. Stick all the needles in you want.
Like an acupuncture point is actually an area of lower energy resistance, lower electrical resistance, and it's on it. We all have them, and they're all in the same place.
So when they're using needles and they're sticking them in various parts of your body, like how do they know where to stick them? And what is it based on?
Mostly it's based on, believe it or not, your body dimensions. So your body dimensions would be different than mine. So I would figure that out by using my hand. So the width of my hand from these knuckles here would be 3 Chinese inches. Now your hand might be bigger than mine. So I would use this part of the knuckles for the 3 chun.
This part here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're, say, had a smaller hand, I would use these knuckles here.
How would you know when to decide? Like, what if you got a medium hand? You don't want to be off with your needle placement.
Well, acupuncture points are about the size of a dime.
Okay.
So there's a bit of wiggle room there. But I think I think a lot of these people that do it all the time, and the people that are real hardcore Chinese medical practitioners, I think they almost have a sense of where the energy is.
Did you ever see that movie where Steven Seagal was in a coma for a long time and they put some acupuncture needles in and he came out of the coma and started fucking people up? He gave himself the acupuncture needles.
With the moxa.
Yeah, with the glowing incense at the end of it. Is that what it's called? Moxa?
Yeah. When we took our Chinese medicine, we took a few courses, but the best one we took was at the nearby university, right where you did your show last
in Edmonton.
In Edmonton. And the guy there, Dr. Ong, is a master. He comes from many generations of Chinese medical doctors, and he's from Burma originally, but he's also a Western medical doctor. So he kind of has a nice perspective on things. He's not just one-sided. But he loved moxa. He liked that stuff and it smells. It's sage.
Oh, okay.
If you didn't
Why
know
do they
that-
call it moxa then? Why don't you call it sage? What's with all the names?
I
For
just
real people, call it sage. Moxa. Fuck
Sounds
outta here.
cool.
Someone copywriting moxa, trying to sell it. Is it moxa TM? So you take this sage and you put it at the end of the needle. What purpose does it serve at the end of the needle? I've always wondered
more
that.
chi.
More chi.
So it's
Not buying it.
taking it right into the.
I'm out. That's where I'm out. That shit don't work. You can't get more chi by a burning thing that's in the end of a needle. How does it give you more chi?
Well, it warms up the needle.
Oh, okay. Well, actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I take it back.
And,
I'm back in.
And there's two types of moxa. There's the type that you stick on the end of the needle, and then there's like a big long stick, like a big cigar, and you light the end of that, and then you wave it over different end. Like there's a major energy point on our belly button, and that's actually a forbidden point in Chinese. Same with your nipples. Hey, you don't want to be putting needles in these places. Penis is another one of them. I'm pretty sure the scrotum also. So they're smart. They knew where not to put the needles.
Yeah, don't put needles in your penis. How fucking smart are these people? They're not putting bases on the moon. They're just saying don't stick needles in your dick. I could have told you that. I'm not even educated. So when you say like major energy centers, like an energy center in the stomach area, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So that's where a lot of energy is stored.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there a battery down there?
No, but it's almost like a pool of this vital energy that we breathe in.
Yeah. But how's it stored there? I'm challenging this because I'm playing devil's advocate, first of all, but also because I wanted to ask you about these things because I've had these conversations with people and I'm always like, I gotta go. Like I can't. Right. People start going, oh, I'm pooling my energy and the moxa enlightens my chi. I'm like, I gotta go. I can't. I don't have the time. So, but you're here right now. So I really want to know what the fuck is up with all this pooling of the energy, storing of the energy.
Well, and it's all terminology.
Chakras. Right.
And that brings me back to the scientific part of it. So these chakras are the same as major energy centers in Chinese medicine, which are the same as our endocrine system. So I suppose the chakra at your navel would coincide with the adrenal glands.
How much of this stuff do you think is like things along the lines of acupuncture or, this types of meditation? How much of them are actually changing your state because you're just focusing on it? I mean, how much of it is not necessarily a placebo effect, but in the act of saying, okay, they're putting needles in various spots of my body. I'm putting myself in a very calm place. They're lighting the moxa. Like just getting yourself calm and accepting the fact that you're in treatment at that moment, which is very different than you would be normally. Like, say if you have like a backache or something like that. If you have a backache, you're like, God, my back sucks, really been fucking with me. But do you ever like sit down and try to calm your whole body and meditate? And if you did, would that bring the same result as sticking yourself with a bunch of needles and thinking about it? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It totally does. Because you're in this state and the mind is so powerful.
Or is it both? Is it being in that state, like calming yourself down, and there's also an effect by the needles?
Yeah, I think it is both. I think there is, having had acupuncture done on myself many times, my take on it from doing it for a long time is these needles are going into our skin, which is a huge sensory map. And the needles are so fine, they actually don't cut us. It's like taking a baseball bat and putting it into a vat of cooked spaghetti. They're so skinny, they slide in between.
It's really weird.
Yeah, and
they don't even hurt. Like people think that they hurt, you barely feel them.
Yeah, so I think it occupies a little bit of space, and that signals the brain that wow, there's something going on here that's I don't like. So then it sends down natural anti-inflammatories and sends down more blood circulation. It almost sets the healing environment. Have
you ever done whole body cryotherapy?
No.
Dude, this is the shit. You gotta try this. This is the latest and greatest thing. Like I'd heard about Kobe Bryant using it, but My friend Eddie Bravo, when he was preparing for his match against Hoyler Gracie at Metamoris, he started using it on a daily basis. And Alan Joban, one of our fighters from 10th Planet, who just fought in the UFC, his knee was hurt, and he did it twice a day, every day before his last UFC fight, and it totally fixed all the inflammation in his knee. You go into this tank, this box, it's just like it looks like a meat locker, right? There's 2 different doors. One door is where you take your clothes off and you keep your underwear on, you have earmuffs on, you wear a mask over your face, and you wear socks and slippers because the floor is fucking ridiculously cold. You have gloves on as well, and you go into this room. It's 250 degrees below zero, and you go there for 3 minutes. That's what I do. I do 3 minutes because I'm not a pussy. A lot of pussies, they get out at about 2 minutes. I don't even know if you should do 3 minutes. Probably not even a benefit of going that extra 30 seconds, but I'm a meathead, so I continue. So you go in there, you do 3 minutes, and then you get out, and I warm up. I get on an elliptical machine, and I do it for the elliptical machine for 10 minutes, get my body temperature up, and then I go back in again for another 3 minutes. And it's ridiculously good for inflammation, ridiculously good for any aches or pains that you might have, like muscle soreness, because your body freaks the fuck out. It feels this 250 degrees below zero, and it just goes, holy shit, and it pulls all the blood from the surface of your skin down to your core. Then 3 minutes later, when you're out, it's enough time so you're not dying of hypothermia. You go out, and then your body goes, oh, we're okay, and whoosh, it all just rushes out. And it's been explained to me in very technical and scientific terms, all the different mechanisms that are going on in the body that are protecting you from this impending death by cold. And so when your body realizes that it's not happening, like what is the actual mechanism that causes this anti-inflammatory response? But it's way better than these ice baths that people have been taking for a long time, where they sit in these things for 20 minutes. This is way better, and it only takes 3 minutes. It's amazing. You got to try it.
Have you tried the ice baths?
I've done an ice bath before. It's good, but this is better. This is better. It's not as painful either.
They're painful.
Plus, you don't have to get your dick wet. Did I say that out loud? I think the ice bath is a great thing. I mean, if that's all you have, I mean, they are painful, and it's also good for your spirit, like your ability to endure, I think that being uncomfortable, your ability to endure comfort or discomfort is a muscle, just like everything else. And my friend Bob Caffarella, when I was back in my Taekwondo days, there was this guy who was one of the senior students when I was first starting out. He was a black belt when I was a white belt, and his name was Bob. And he used to live at the school and teach and train there, Bob Caffarella. And Bob used to take fucking cold showers in the middle of January in Boston. He would just crank up the cold water and just get in that shower and wash like nothing was going on. And I would go, I can't believe he's doing this. It's so cold. The water was so fucking cold. And he'd be in there just doing breathing exercises and taking a shower, and everybody else, get the fuck out of here. Turn that water on hot and take their shower. But this dude, he really believed in testing your spirit. And he thought that taking these ridiculously cold showers, it probably in the long run was actually good for your body, now that we're knowing about cryotherapy and things along those lines, and ice baths. It was probably actually good, post-workout for anti-inflammatory response. But it was also, he believed that it's like a muscle, that you're testing your will. And by doing that, putting yourself constantly in that state of mind where you can endure discomfort, that you build up your ability to endure discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like kettlebells.
Yeah. I want to send you down there today, though. After this is over, I want to send you down to that cryotherapy place.
Really? Thank you.
Yeah, you need to do it. You need to do it.
Wow.
I want to hear what your response to it is. Everybody that I've brought down there, it's called Cryo Healthcare in L.A., and they're one of, I think there's only 2 places in the whole country that have the very specific type of cryotherapy device they have, where you step all the way in. Usually there's one where your body's in, but your head is above it, and it's sort of like a liquid nitrogen that keeps you freezing cold. But that's not as consistent as the one where you step in. You step in, I mean, your fucking head's in it, your face is in it. You're going to love it.
I can't wait.
It's just so cool that they're always coming up with these new ways to increase the body's ability to recover, new ways to increase your body's ability to fight inflammation,
Well, and a lot of it is based on they're just making something old better. Mm-hmm. We've known that, probably cold showers or cold baths or jumping in a cold lake is good.
Or ice on injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've just taken it one step further. It's amazing with the technology.
Yeah, it really is. It's super cool, and you feel so fucking good when you get out of it. When you go into it, you're so goddamn cold for those 3 minutes, and when you get out, it's like, woo! You get this wild adrenaline rush. You start like jogging in place. You feel so good. Your brain's firing. Pow, pow, pow! Like, we're gonna live. Yeah. Your body is really convinced that you're fucked. Like it's like you're naked and you were dropped off on the top of the earth. I don't even think like the North Pole is 250 degrees below zero. No. Like, what's the coldest spot on Earth? I would say it's probably like, I'm going to guess. Let's just guess. I think where that Sue Aikens chick lives, life below zero. She's my hero. That bitch lives in the middle of Alaska by herself shooting bears. But I think that's like, it gets to like 190 below. What's the coldest spot on Earth, Jamie?
Going up the highest ridge in Antarctica. I'm trying to find
the highest ridge in Antarctica. The coldest, thinnest atmosphere. Somewhere there's
136.
That's it?
Yep.
Bitch ass 136. I ain't nothing.
Colder than dry ice.
Colder than dry ice. So this is nothing. Just 114 degrees colder than that. Wrap your head around that, son. That's fucking ridiculous. 250 degrees below zero.
And no frostbite.
Nope. I'm gonna nip a little bit, but it's okay. I didn't need it. No. You wear gloves, you wear a face mask, you wear earmuffs. Is that the spot?
Yeah.
136 below zero. Wow. New record for the coldest place on Earth. What happened to global warming, bitch? I bought real estate up there. I'm hoping for global warming. I'm trying to set up them all. But if that's the coldest place on Earth, still, I mean, it's amazing that this box is 114 degrees colder than that.
Wow.
114 degrees colder. 114. It's cold as fuck.
And how many times do you do this?
I try to do it a couple times a week. Yeah, it's really good.
And you go in and out a couple times?
Yeah, but I do it twice. I go in, do it for a little while. Remember that dude from the Fresh Prince? Will Smith's buddy? He was there yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was doing it yesterday. He's on Dancing with the Stars. Yeah.
It's a great video.
He's a nice guy. Very nice guy. Yesterday I met him for the first time. But the response of your body, like freaking out because of the cold and then warming up and then doing it again, is supposed to be really, doing it twice, is supposed to be fantastic.
Sounds exciting. I can't wait.
Do you do anything specifically like post-workout? Do you have like a routine that you do post-workout to reduce inflammation or anything?
Well, one of the things I do if I run, and I read this in a book and I thought it was ingenious, is just lay on my back and put my legs up against a wall.
Oh, just to like let the blood flow down?
Let the blood drain.
That makes sense.
Because, a lot of times after you run, you just sit down and have a coffee or something. Yeah, just pool, and it just pools. And then I stand all day at work. And it's hard for that blood to get back to the heart, especially when there's all that inflammation in the legs and all that heat created and all the blood just bashing down into there. So yeah, it makes a huge difference for your legs.
Do you work out with a trainer, or do you concoct your own workouts and just are self-motivated?
Yeah, I dream up different. Like my body is my own experiment, and
sorry.
That didn't come out right, but it is. It's my body, and I can see what it's capable of handling, and it's fun there's so much information out there and so many cool things to try. But I do come back to the kettlebell training as kind of, to me, that feels like the hardest weight training type conditioning exercise that I've found. And it's just so convenient.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just love the fact that you can get so much out of one piece of equipment. With one 50-pound kettlebell, you can have an unbelievable ball-busting workout and your whole body be ridiculously sore and all functional strength. Like, I love Turkish get-ups.
Oh, yeah.
Things along those lines, because they're not glamorous exercises, but if you do them consistently, like, you feel like a difference. If you go to help a friend move a couch, like, you feel it. You feel like you can physically carry things better. Like I said, I was hunting in Alaska this week, and I had a big pack on my back, and I'm climbing up hills, and I felt great. I'm in good shape. I mean, I'm going up these ridiculously tough hills and sliding around the dirt and everything. And it's a lot of like lifting yourself up with one leg and then lifting yourself up with another leg. So it really is consistent with like the workouts that you create in your videos.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's I love the Turkish get up. So many people don't like that exercise, but
because it's not glamorous.
Yeah, and it is hard. You can't watch TV while you're doing
right.
it. But like I go skiing. We go skiing in the winter, and the most fun thing to do is climb up these huge trails that people make. They take their skis off and climb up to, not out of bounds, but this one hill we go to is like it's like the stair climber from hell. Hey, the oxygen's a bit thinner, and you've got this stupid ski boot on, so you can't flex your ankles. So you're just going one after the other straight up these hills, and it's just like getting up. You're used to it. It's like getting up from the Turkish get up.
Yeah.
Except you don't have to hold the weight above your head.
Yeah, I just think that it's one of the best exercises for like translating into like using your body in everyday life. If you have to pick things up or move things, or just be strong. Like have your body like, oh, it doesn't bother me if I have to move these boxes right now. I could pick because like Ben from Honey Honey.
Yeah.
We're talking to him. Our friend from band Honey Honey yesterday was talking about how they're on the road all the time, and he hurt his back from just carrying. He's like carrying their gear, just picking things up and carrying their gear, like just things along the like. Everybody thinks of. There's a lot of like vanity and ego associated with exercise. Like if you look at the cover of all these magazines and dudes are all sleek and six-pack, you're like, fuck that douche. I don't even want to be that guy.
I hate when they black them out or when they airbrush them. That's the worst.
It bothers you?
Yeah, it's just so fake.
It's fake fuckers. Well, there's a lot of people that actually do look that way, right? But that's the thing, like, for what you were talking about, your friend that cuts weight and they dehydrate themselves before they take those photographs, that's something that most people are probably not aware of when you look at those magazines and you see someone that's unbelievably shredded and vascular and really thin-skinned. They're dehydrated and they're super unhealthy.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't stay like that either. Like that state that they reach, like contest weight state, like right before they compete in bodybuilding competitions, they're like on death's door. Those fuckers are like literally ready to die. But it looks awesome. Why does it look good to be almost dying?
I just think we like that look of just solid muscle and just shredded. And
fucking shredded. Yeah, a little fat's good though, right?
I think it is, yeah.
Good for your endurance, it seems.
Yeah.
Because guys who are like super lean and shredded, they don't seem to have as much endurance as guys who just have just a small layer of body fat on them. Does your body actually burn fat, like if you're in a competition? Like say if you're doing something like a marathon, is your body burning fat? Or are you is it going entirely on glycogen and food and like, what is...
Have you ever read the book Eat, Stop, Eat?
I don't read that much.
Oh, yeah, you're too busy to read.
I read, but I read shit on like space, things that'll never affect me.
I'll summarize it for you. Because it's the best book I've ever read on
Eat,
nutrition.
Stop, Eat?
Eat, Stop, Eat. EatStopEat.com. And I just found it, I don't know how I found it, but it's just, it's like an ebook, maybe 100 pages, and it's based on 261 research papers. Anyway, this guy, Brad Pilon, he worked in the supplement industry, and he started wondering and it's Pilon, Pilon, and I think he started questioning the wisdom of 6 meals a day. Do we really need 6 meals a day? Does the body really, attack its own muscle tissue if you're not constantly like full? Right. And is fasting really that bad? So he looked at all these different studies on the effects of fasting, and it turns out you can not eat any calories for 16 hours before your blood sugar levels even start to be affected. You've got that much glycogen.
16 hours?
16 hours.
So you think it's like mental for a lot of people?
I think it's mental. I think once your stomach is empty, it's such a weird feeling for so many people that they almost freak out. And so the premise of the book is to fast for up to 24 hours once or twice a week. Just don't eat anything. You can drink tea, you can drink coffee, nothing with calories in it. And get down to that last 8 hours of the the fast, that last between 16 and 24, that's the sweet spot. That's where the magic happens.
What magic?
Well, that's where your insulin levels are like down to the bottom.
Uh-huh.
And your body says, "Oh my God, like there's no blood sugar left in our muscles and liver. We better start burning fat." Wow, what a new concept! Because a lot of people haven't gotten to that hunger stage where their bodies have actually been forced to access fat stores.
So, is this the average person has that many hours of sugar?
Yeah, I think
stored
that's
up in
based
their
on an
body?
average. I know, because I've wondered that too. I'm like, it seems kind of like a cut and dried number, but
So is that good for you to do that?
very good.
Really?
Yeah, and
There's a lot of controversy when it comes to that, though, isn't it?
there is, but he proves it. Like the book, honestly, I couldn't put it down because every sentence he writes is backed up with a study, and it turns out, and he's got charts and graphs and everything. But when you get your insulin down to that level, your growth hormone levels are inversely proportional to your insulin levels. So you actually get a surge of growth hormone.
So how weird. Your body makes more growth hormone if your body is starving.
Because it's stress. I think it's under stress.
Huh.
And supposedly that's why we get a little spike of growth hormone in the middle of the night. Because presumably if we've eaten supper at a certain hour, by the time the middle of the night rolls around, we've dipped our blood sugar down a little bit compared to what we were after we ate, like 4 hours after.
Mm-hmm.
And the growth hormone has a bit of a bump.
Is that why you're not supposed to eat like a fat pig right before you go to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're sleeping, burning off while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So how often do you fast?
I try for once a week.
Once a week?
Yeah.
And how many hours do you do?
To 24.
You just do a full day once a week?
Yeah, and he says that anything more than 24 is not that beneficial. You've kind of maxed out the benefits around the 24-hour mark.
So when you come back after the 24-hour fast, do you slowly consume food, or do you have very specific foods that you consume?
You almost are forced to slowly consume. Because you're so sensitive to food, and it's not even that long of a time. But you like a piece of lettuce tastes good, and like you drink maybe a smoothie or something. It's like, oh my God, I'm full. It's incredible.
So your stomach is just like super sensitive
Yeah.
to it. Animals like bears, when they go into hibernation and they come out, they really can't eat much. They have to slowly work their way up. It's kind of a crazy thing, but grizzly bears, when they come out of hibernation, they kill things on instinct and just leave them there. Because a lot of grizzlies, when they come out of hibernation in the spring, there's still snow on the ground, and moose get stuck in the snow to the point where they can't run away from the grizzlies because they're huge animals, and the snow is oftentimes 5-6 foot thick. I mean, I don't have to tell you, you live in Alberta. And as they're walking, like, they're fucking sinking all the way to the bottom of the snow. It's like a moose can't sprint in 7 foot deep snow. They're really kind of fucked. They're sitting ducks. And so these bears come out of these holes, and they see these moose just kind of trudging, and they just run up to them and fuck them up. And my friend Cameron was up in Alaska, and he said he saw this one bear had killed like several moose and couldn't eat them yet because he couldn't, like, he'd just come out of hibernation, so he literally didn't have the ability to eat meat yet, but he was just killing anyway. Kill a bunch of moose and just leave them all fucked up in the snow.
Leave them on ice for later.
Yeah, like literally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how nature works.
It's strange how nature works as far as, like, reacting to what you're putting into your body, as far as like you're burning off sugars because you're consuming a lot of sugars, and then you stop that and you give yourself only like complex carbohydrates, vegetables, proteins, and your body goes, whoa, where's the sugar? All right, okay, change the script, we're going to burn fat. And that's, what the whole paleo has kind of a bad rap because it's sort of been proven that people that lived in the Paleolithic era didn't necessarily eat that, and they probably did eat some grains, and they probably did eat anything that they can get their hands on. But the reality being that simple sugars, whether it's a lot of pasta, a lot of bread, cake, those things are not necessarily the best thing for your body, and it's basically sugar. Yeah. When you eat a piece of bread, you say, oh, I'm going to have a piece of bread. You're eating sugar.
Yep.
Your body processes it almost the same way as it would process a simple sugar.
Yeah, we don't have cereal, bread, pasta, rice, any of that stuff in our house. I shouldn't say rice.
Eat a little bit of rice, wild rice?
Yeah.
Quinoa. You ever have
we have
rice
quinoa.
with quinoa? Quinoa's great.
Yeah.
So this is one of the few complex proteins, like in plant form too, where it has basically all the amino acids.
And it's a seed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a grain. It's a weird grain.
Yeah, no, and bread is one of those things that my wife is great with diet. She's very strict, very disciplined. And so when I look at a piece of bread, it's like, if I'm going to eat that, that's a treat. Like, it's kind of like having a piece of birthday cake or something. It's
Really?
Yeah, like if I go out for dinner or something, it's I'm going to have a piece of bread. It's so exciting, you know? Whereas most people eat that kind of stuff. They think they're healthy, and because they're eating whole grain bread.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's a fascinating subject, the subject of diet. It's really you are what you eat, and that's such a stupid cliche for me to say, but because it's been said so many times, it's painful. But it really is what it is.
Have you seen King Corn?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
that just proves it. The guy was what he ate. They were made of their DNA was made of corn.
Yeah, the carbon was based on corn. When they did an analysis of their hair, I love that documentary because these guys went into it pretty. You know, they weren't aware. They didn't really know. They're like, "What? Corn? Okay, let's find out what this is all about." They bought an acre of corn or leased an acre of corn on this guy's farm, grew it, and watched the whole thing from putting the corn into the ground to harvesting it and selling it and seeing where it goes after it's sold. Amazing documentary and a stunning analysis of like where our culture is right now when it comes to farm subsidies and how it affects every human being on this planet. And when they go to the supermarket and start finding all the different corn ingredients that are on all these different products, corn proteins and corn syrup and corn flour and corn this and corn that, and like, fuck.
Yeah, unless you're eating purely whole foods, you're going to be eating corn. And
corn is not good. Like, your body doesn't digest corn well. That's why you find corn kernels in your shit. You know? That's like, it's really that simple. Like, why is that in there? Because your body didn't digest it. Your body's like, what is this? Your body, like, basically spits it out the way it went in. You swallow a kernel of corn, it'll come out like a marble. You know? I mean, that's really... It's your body telling you something. Hey, this isn't... What is this? I don't even know what to do with this.
Yeah, I've wondered about that because, you know, corn on the cob in the summer, I don't eat it anymore because it is so disgusting. Like
so
you said.
Delicious. How dare you? You put butter on it?
But you know what? It's butter.
Damn, it's so good.
It's the butter that makes things taste good. We were in Costa Rica last year.
Yeah, but you don't eat a stick of butter by itself. It tastes like shit. You know, I don't buy that. I think it's the butter on the corn.
Well, if it's melted, you dip something into it that would otherwise...
It helps lobster.
Yeah, I had lobster. I had steak and lobster for Christmas. We were on holidays, and in Costa Rica, they don't. Butter's pretty precious there. They don't give that stuff out.
They don't give butter out?
Yeah, so I had this steak and lobster. I'm going to treat myself. It's Christmas dinner, and they didn't bring me butter. And I said, sorry to be a pain in the ass, but can I get some butter with the lobster? And they're like, they looked at me like,
goddamn third world people. That's why they don't have nuclear weapons. They don't even know what they're doing. We won't let them have it. Can't even handle butter, you fucks. That's why you go up to Maine if you want lobster. That's where they make a real lobster. Goddamn American lobster, not this Costa Rican bullshit. They don't even have claws. This is unarmed pussy lobsters, peace-loving lobsters. You go to Maine, you get those cold water lobsters. Oh, that's the real lobster, my friend. They fly Maine lobsters all over the country, you know?
They fly them here.
Fuck yeah, they do. Yeah, you don't want those. They have California lobsters. Like, if you go to Malibu off the coast, you'll see people right now, because it's lobster season, they scuba dive for lobsters. They go in the water, and they've got their fucking goggles on and shit, and they're looking for lobsters. But it's a different lobster. It's a lobster with no claws. Some bitch-ass pacifist lobster. They don't taste as good. You want the violent lobsters of Maine. Cold water, angry, beating the shit out of each other, cutting off each other's fucking tentacles. Those are the ones you capture, and they're so delicious. They're like a sweet... Those cold water lobsters, Atlantic lobsters, are sweet with butter.
The butter does help.
So much for the diet. Is butter okay? What about grass-fed butter?
Yeah, butter's great.
Is it great?
Yeah. It's fat. We don't get enough fat in our diets.
That's really true?
Yeah, I believe so.
But we're fat. So how does that work?
Well, I know you're playing devil's advocate probably. But
how do you know? You're so clever. You goddamn Canadians. You're one step ahead.
It's the sugar. It's the sugar. Hey, it's the sugar
gets us fat. But we need fat in our diet not to be fat. We don't need to be fat, but we need to eat fats.
Yeah, for our cell membranes, for our hormones. Everything's made out of fat. Everything good in our body's made out of fat.
Yeah, like avocados, not even just animal fats. Like, there's a lot of good, healthy coconut oil. There's a lot of good, healthy fats that we could use on a regular basis.
My wife packed me an avocado in my backpack just to
What a
make sure I
sweetie.
didn't freak out.
My wife has never packed me a fucking avocado in her life. God damn, I don't talk to her about that shit. Do you eat game? Do you eat game meat?
Oh, yeah. There's so many guys. I'm the only guy on my. I play beer league hockey, and I think I'm the only guy on our hockey team that doesn't hunt. So I got to get into this.
Would you get into hunting?
I'd love to.
I'm telling you, man, me and Steve Rennell have been talking about doing a television show where we take people out hunting that have never been hunting before. The only problem with that idea is I don't have that much time. And when I go out hunting, I don't want to be go out holding your hand, Keith Weber. I want to go out to shoot an animal that I can eat. I don't have time to like show you how to shoot an animal. So you're on your own. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Well, and I think it seems like it is a week-long ordeal.
Oh, yeah. Well, we just went for a week in Alaska and we struck out. We didn't get anything. So it's not always guaranteed. This is my first strikeout trip, but every hunting trip I've been on has been about a week. And all of them up until this one have been successful, but it's work, man. It's work. Unless you want to go to a place where you know, like you could go to a place that they have these ranches, especially in Texas, that are called high fence ranches. So it'll be X amount of acres. A lot of them are huge, like 10,000 plus acres,
wow.
But they're fenced in, and there's animals in there for sure. But it's all private property. But it's kind of like a park, you know?
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like once there's a fence, I mean, is it better than going to the grocery store and buying a steak from an animal that lived in a pen? Yes, it is, most certainly, because they are living in a very wild way. It's essentially what you would call fair chase. There's 10,000 acres, and these animals are living in this environment that is absolutely natural. They're not being fed. There's not like, you know, the bell goes off at 9 in the morning and the fucking the food pours out in front of them. It's not that. They're just eating natural grasses and wandering around these natural environments, but they're there for sure, you know. So it's kind of like a stocked lake in some ways.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
But people don't have a problem with a stocked lake, but they do have a problem with high fence hunting. I think we feel like we have such an advantage already over animals that like to have more of an advantage, like have them blocked in by an actual fence, is kind of a pussy way of doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I could see that thought. I have friends that bow hunt. Which I find that's pretty respectable.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's actually how I hurt my shoulder. From talking
pulling
to you
the
about
bow.
getting Regenikine on my shoulder.
Right.
Yeah, it's from pulling a bow too many times.
That's good exercise, isn't it?
It's decent exercise, but it's just repetitive stress. I'm an idiot. So I was doing it 150 times a day. And you're pulling between 80 and 90 pounds. So I'm pulling 80 and 90 pounds. I have two different bows, and I'm doing it 100 times a day plus. So after a while, my shoulder was like, fuck you, stupid. Like, keep getting us to do this. When we're sore, stop.
And is that the shoulder that usually bugs you?
Well, it doesn't usually bug me. It just started to bug me because of all the archery. Right. So I have a lighter bow that I shoot with now, too. But archery's fun just as far as like an exercise, like for your mind. Like just a zen sort of a thing to tune into that one spot you're trying to hit, keep everything calm, everything's together, tuned in, like a and let the arrow go. Everything's absolutely still, just perfectly lined up. You should go.
And you've inspired me. Forget the guns.
Yeah, bow hunting for a moose.
I had a friend.
Make sure you shoot behind a tree, though, so if the moose charges, you can slowly circle the tree.
Yeah, he just killed an elk. Huge elk. I couldn't believe it. He borrowed one of my mountain bikes to ride up there. Hey, smart, hey. He said, why walk when I can borrow one of your bikes?
That's a smart dude.
Yeah.
But I think an elk probably hear that bike coming. They're like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Well, he said what they do is that they'll have the guy that's going to kill the thing in sort of the danger area, and then they'll have the guy calling it behind him.
Ah, I see.
So he's like, this thing is totally unsuspecting. He's like, what is that? Because he thinks it's another male, right?
Right. Well, he either thinks it's another male or he thinks it's a cow. They call during what's called the rut, which is when the animals are all trying to get their sexy time in. Right. And they have this crazy noise. If you've never heard an elk bugle, I've never heard it in real life. I've heard cows, they make a weird whistle. I've heard that in real life. But unless you're there during the spring or during the fall, rather, like right around, I think it's October-ish, like right around now, really, is when they're rutting. Yeah. And when they're rutting, they have this like this crazy noise that they make, this bugle. and the way you call them in is either you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the real
Sounds
noise.
like a whale.
It does. It's so crazy. They're a majestic animal. They really are majestic. They're so fucking big. They're like 1,200 pounds, some of them, you know? And that's so much meat. I mean, you shoot one of them, I mean, you've got like, essentially, you've got a year's worth of food, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Total renewable resource. They're constantly having babies. You know, there's huge herds of them all throughout, you know, Utah and Idaho and Colorado. That's so cool. What a fucking wild animal, man.
And they practice like the calls, right? They have like actual whistles for this.
Oh, the hunters?
So,
yeah.
So.
There's a bunch of different companies that make different whistles but it's funny because hunters can actually tell the difference between someone using a hunting call that sounds like an elk and an actual elk's sound. So a lot of hunters are convinced that elk, like smart elk that have been around for many seasons, they go, you know what? I'm not buying that one. I fucking heard that before. An arrow went flying near my head the last time I came near that fucking sound. You know, some of them, they sound pretty realistic, and other ones, they just sound like a call. But it's enough. All you have to do is just get them. They're so horny, apparently, when it's going on. They have hard-ons, and their dicks are like flopping against their stomach, and they come out screaming and bellowing. And they're like, fuck you, bitch. You know, you better not be making that noise in my neighborhood. And they come running out, and that's when you get them. Because otherwise, like getting close enough to shoot them with an arrow is really difficult. Their sense of smell is insane. Their hearing is insane. They're always on the lookout. And you got to get within, you know, less than 50 yards most of the time.
Yeah. And don't they have smells that the hunter has a smell that he puts on himself?
Oh, yeah. Well, you can do that. You can spray things on you. It'll help a little. Their sense of smell is just it's so powerful, though, that human beings can't even really conceptualize it, I don't think.
Yeah.
Our idea of what a smell is. Like, when they're getting, like, a fucking internet download PDF file of you when they smell you. They're getting like, oh, this guy's eating hamburgers, he's drinking beer. We got to get the fuck out of here. I smell gunpowder. Let's go. You know, they just bolt. Like, they're getting like so much information from your smell. You know, we think of it as like, oh, he can smell me. I think they're getting like a book on you. You know, I think they're just fucking, they get your whole life story and like, yo, see ya. A lot of people, they also eat grass and vegetables only, like a few guys I've talked to, like the week of the hunt. So their breath is the breath of a vegetation eating animal, instead of like someone who eats like a lot of meat and you're making burps that it smells like rotten meat coming out of your face. Like, oh, I think I know what this guy's up to.
It's true, isn't it, though? I don't think you're supposed to eat that much meat.
Well, I think if you were going near them, it would totally make sense.
Yep.
If you were trying to track an animal that's worried about you eating it, I would think that you would try to. If you eat a lot of vegetables, your breath would be that of something that eats vegetables. Like, so they say that that's like the big giveaway is your breath. Some people even eat like spruce needles. They'll chew spruce needles while they're out in the field because it'll sort of mask the natural smells inside their breath.
I never heard that. That makes total sense, though.
That's about me, bro. Making total sense all day. So your buddies in your hockey league, they all hunt?
Yeah. They
have they offered to take you?
They have, yeah. I got to take them. It worries me because it sounds like a bit of an alcoholic paradise. I mean,
does it?
Yeah, like it sounds like they do usually kill animals. They're pretty good. Like I think they do this every year since they were kids. So they
But they do it drunk as fuck?
Well, I think they drink at night. And
after it's over.
Yeah, I think they hunt all day and then at night they just. It sounds like they drink more than, but they're pretty cool. Hunt. Yeah, they're a good group of guys. They're the Albertan, blue collar Albertan archetype.
Well, there's so much game up there in Alberta. You guys have some of the biggest bucks, like as far as like deer in the world.
Oh yeah,
they have giant 300-pound whitetails. You have these enormous mule deers. Huge moose, bear. You have black bear all over the place up there. It's like a paradise of game.
Well, even the city we live in is. I see deer every day in my backyard. Like they're like rabbits.
Really?
Yeah, just like white-tailed deer. Yeah.
Shoot one of those things, Keith Weber.
Well, I thought about it, but I don't think you're allowed to in city limits. So.
No. Well, what is like when you say city limits? What city?
Red Deer.
Yeah, you could shoot them in Red Deer. It's in the name, Red Deer. It's in the name of the city. You're allowed to. I read that. If you think your yard's over a certain size and you have a bow and arrow, I bet you'd probably get away with it.
Yeah, you could.
The problem is, if the deer hops the fence and goes to your neighbor's yard and it's fucking tits up, bleeding out on his lawn, and he's like, "Hey, Keith Weber, you fucking dickhead, how about you shoot a fucking animal in my neighborhood? I gotta clean this lawn." If they've invited you to come along, would you have to like take a firearm safety thing or anything up there? Do you have to do that? Like take a hunter's education course?
Yeah, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. It sounds. And my dad has a bunch of rifles and stuff that he doesn't use.
So what the fuck, Keith? Get it cracking. It's the healthiest meat as far as like. It's also the most ethically. You're so connected to whatever you're eating.
Yeah.
You shoot a deer and then you cut that deer up and you eat it. You're 100% completely invested and connected with that animal, as opposed to that weird disconnect that you get, especially when you eat like bologna. You know, you have like a bologna sandwich. Like what even is that? Like what steps have been taken to turn this into this perfectly symmetrical round slice of whatever the fuck it is that used to be a live thing?
I remember the bologna when I was a kid. They used to have like the little alphagettis embedded into it. I don't know if you ever had
What's
that.
an alphagetti?
You never had that? It's like
I don't know what that means.
Alphagetti, oh my God. Yeah, it's like a can of like pasta with, you know, the tomato sauce and the various letters of the alphabet. And you
SpaghettiOs kind of thing.
Yeah, like SpaghettiOs with letters.
Alphagetti.
Yeah.
Alphagetti.
Alphagetti.
Poor Canada. Poor Canada. Makes me sad. No, we don't. I mean, we have something similar. What is that called? It's not SpaghettiOs. What is it? Alphabet? There's
alphabet soup. I don't know.
Yeah, there's alphabet soup for sure. That's like that. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alphagetti.
It always makes me. It always makes but I still see people eating bologna.
Is it bad for you?
I don't think it's good.
It's definitely not good for you.
Now that's the one thing with the paleo, that they're big on bacon.
Right.
And I'm sure we all love bacon, but I don't think you should eat that much of it. Like I'm leery about that concept of that much sodium and nitrates. But I guess it depends on the type of bacon. I guess there's probably bacon out there that's
yeah, you can have natural bacon. It doesn't last as long. But from what I understand, there's certain natural nitrates in like sea salt and in celery. Celery apparently is naturally high in nitrates, and celery is not bad for you. So I guess, is it just... I have to fucking have Rhonda Patrick on soon. I have to ask her about nitrates. I don't understand that.
Yeah. It's supposed to produce carcinogens or something like that.
Allegedly?
Allegedly.
Isn't that what the TSA always finds on people?
Nitrates?
Like, you're high in nitrates. We gotta
Yeah.
pull you over in this room.
Yeah, like if you have been on a farm, that's one of the things they say. Like if you, well, here's a funny story. When Brian first started working for me, actually I think before Brian was even working for me, he was selling a laptop. He had a laptop and he put it up for sale on the message board. And I private messaged him. I said, I need a laptop, like a second laptop for, work stuff. It was a Windows laptop. And I said, I'll buy it. So he sold me the laptop, sent it to me, and then I took it. Like from the moment I got it from him, I took it on the road, and I put it in my bag, and I went through the airport, and they immediately flagged it. And they pulled me aside, and they said, your laptop is testing positive for explosives. And I went, what? What do you mean? And they were like, well, have you been to a farm recently? And all I could think of is that motherfucker is pranking me. He put some fucking gunpowder all over the laptop and then sold it to me. But it had, for some reason, it tested for trace amounts of nitrogen or nitrates or whatever the fuck it was.
And that's what they find on explosives.
Well, you can have fertilizer bombs. Like what they used at Oklahoma City apparently was a fertilizer bomb. Remember that?
Yeah.
The Timothy McVeigh thing?
Yeah.
Supposedly, there's a lot of controversy and conspiracy theories regarding that incident. They believe it wasn't just that. There was other bombs planted in the building. Whatever. I don't know. But you can make a fertilizer bomb that's pretty potent. So that's what they're worried about when they test your laptop and they find that shit. Fertilizers. They're bombs. Now you know. Manure. Nitrates. Methane. Light that shit. Light your farts on fire. You could also blow up people's shit.
Like in Fight Club, where they took the soap, right? Or the human fat and made soap and bombs out of that.
Oh, yeah, that's right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That works. Do you ever see that video where that whale is a beached whale and his body's rotting and it explodes? You ever see that? Have you ever seen it?
No, I've never seen it.
Oh my God, it's fucking crazy. See if you can find it, Jamie. Pull up the video so Keith can watch it. Yeah, you know, your body's, when this whale's body's rotting on the beach, I guess it just comes to some boiling. Were they moving it when it exploded?
I think that they were trying to and they couldn't. It just took too long.
And it fucking exploded. Oh, there was one where they were taking it in a truck. You remember that?
Yeah.
They had a beached whale, and they had picked the beached whale up, and they were moving it. And as they were moving it, it exploded. Literally like a bomb. Boom.
There's one they blew up on purpose, too, I think, because they had to get rid of the body. And they made
Yeah, I
a
don't
bad
want to see that
decision.
one. I want to see Natural's Own bomb.
That'll happen with wildlife too. I remember
Yeah.
when I was a kid, we lived out in the middle of nowhere, and people would leave the animals in the ditch, and after a couple of weeks, the stomach would just expand like almost like you're blowing a bubble from bubble gum. So I remember being a kid, I could never chew bubble gum because my mom would be so disgusted because it would remind her of this big sack of a stomach ripping out of this animal's body, hey, because all the little bacteria and everything go to work once the animal dies, and it just like swells up into this big. And I vaguely remember seeing an animal with like a big pink bubble sticking out of its gut.
What?
Yeah,
So-
because if you don't gut an animal right away, like a deer or an elk or something, it'll
just starts rotting.
It'll rot, and then like the stomach is fairly a thinner skin, so it'll actually start to expand.
That makes me sad that some people don't eat the organs of the animals that they kill. It's so wasted. I mean, ultimately, it's all going to get eaten by bacteria and other life forms anyway, and you know, scavengers. It will all go to use if you just leave it there. It'll go to use.
Yeah.
But the organs are some of the best parts of the body. Like as far as like eating the liver and eating the heart, it's fantastic and very nutritious. Really good for you.
Do you eat liver?
Yeah, I love liver. Wow. Liver's delicious. And liver off a deer, like a fresh deer liver that you just shot, is so good. It's incredible how good it is. Huh. When we were in Montana, we shot these deer, and I shot a deer, and within 2 hours, we were cooking the liver over a campfire. And it was just unbelievable. We were just eating it going, oh my God, this is incredible. And then we fried up the heart. We ate the heart the same way, like right over the campfire. It's incredible. Did you find anything?
Yeah, and caution warning.
Caution warning?
Some viewers may find this disturbing. It's
Oh, those
right
viewers
away.
are pussies. Here we go. Let this bitch go. Let's see what the fuck this is. Are we going to get flagged on
I
YouTube
don't
for this?
think so. It's too quick.
Okay, here we go. Look at this. They're carving into this whale, and as they're carving into it, it's boom.
Oh my God!
Look at that. Oh my God. That's insane. And look, the guy runs like a bitch. What, do you think it's going to blow up again, sir? Look how far it's shot. Splattered all over the wall. Show that again, Jamie.
I think they showed it again right here.
It's crazy. So he's digging into it to relieve pressure, I guess.
Oh.
What a weird fucking job. What do you do? Well, you know, when whales die, I go and I cut into them. That looked like it would fuck you up. Like, that's not just a little explosion. That's like a serious, ferocious explosion. Boom. Like, if you were standing right in front of that, you're going down, bitch. You're going to get hurt. Imagine if that's how you died. How'd you die? Well, whale was beached and
Whale cannon.
cut into it and it fucking blew up in my face. Took my head off. Here I am in heaven. Feeling bad. When your friends go hunting, they give you meat?
No. Well, actually, you know, I shouldn't say that. Because it's customary after a beer league hockey game to indulge in meat type snacks, cheese, preferably going out to a local pub to have chicken wings, beer, rum and cokes, things like that. But there are times when we're in a place where they don't have a good pub, and out comes the beef jerky. And everyone's really, because I think they use a lot of the animal to make beef jerky out of. So, and everyone's very proud of their secret recipe. So
Right.
it's,
Yeah.
amazing.
That is a cool thing about a lot of hunters, that they get really into cooking because they're so connected with the meat that they get themselves. They start getting into like being a chef, and like Steve Rinella he's a big time chef. He loves cooking food that he makes. Do you cook your own meals? Do you have like very specific recipes that you follow as far as like healthy eating and recovering from exercise?
Yeah, we eat a lot of soup.
Soup?
Yeah, even for breakfast.
Really?
Yeah.
Why soup?
It's a really easy way to get a lot of vegetables into your diet. And we use these animal broth. Like we've got a few local sort of grass-fed places that you can get the soup bones from. So we'll boil these bones for a day or two, just get all that gel and everything off them, throw that in the concoction of boiled vegetables. And according to my wife, this is good to have something warm in the stomach in the morning, because our stomach fire, again, it's all terminology, it's our stomachs, our digestive enzymes aren't as active in the morning. So if you eat this soup, it sort of gets things going in the right direction. So, and then with my job, I don't like to take a lunch break. I like to just blast right on through for 8 hours. So I just throw it in a Vitamixer.
What's your job? What's your regular job?
Physiotherapist.
So you work with like people that are injured and things along those lines?
Yeah. So I go from person to person, and I don't have a ton of time in between to have a big meal. And I find that makes me tired anyway. So.
Do you ever follow the warrior diet?
Yeah, I did that for a while just because it was convenient, because I didn't have to eat all day. But I found I pigged out a little bit too much at night. So. Yeah. But I think there's something to that, especially after eating Eat, Stop, Eat. I think there's...
Ronda Rousey was following it for a while. I don't know if she's followed it anymore, but she would eat like berries and some fruits during the day. But primarily her main meal was one meal a night. Yeah. She would work out all day like a beast. And then she would eat this... I think, like I said, some berries and some light things and fruit juices and things during the day, but her primary meal was a nighttime meal, and she was having some great benefits from it.
Yeah, I think I think there is something to that, and it's, again, it flies in the face of my bodybuilder friends that they want to eat the 6 meals per day. Yeah. And then take a protein shake in the middle of the night.
Well, I've also heard people say that when you eat many times a day, that somehow or another it stimulates your metabolism, but I don't know what evidence there are or is of that.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
There's so many different fucking schools of thought when it comes to diet and exercise. I mean, remember when you were kids? When we were kids, they had the pyramid, the food pyramid, and the bottom was all grains. It's like, you need carbohydrates. And now it's like, hey, did that bottom part, the foundation, throw it out. We don't need that at all. Like, what? That's everything. The grains are everything. You need the grains. No.
Well, and there must be something to that 6 meals a day, because I've seen a lot of people get like really good physiques on that. So I don't know.
Well, I think the idea is that when you eat a lot of small meals, that your body's never working on stored food because it's constantly getting new food. Yeah. And so that's what stimulates your body to go, look, we don't need all this fat because we're getting food every fucking 2 hours. So let's just get rid of all the fat and just live off this food.
Yeah, it must be something like that. Then you get into the hormones and things like that, and it gets so complicated. No wonder people get confused. But
do you do anything specifically, like exercise-wise, to try to stimulate growth hormone or testosterone? Because they say like really explosive exercise. Yeah. Like Steve Maxwell is a big proponent of that, like very specific exercises that are designed to stimulate your hormonal system.
Yeah, that's why I love the double kettlebells. Ah. And that's my idea for the next video. It's taken me a long time to figure out how to implement that and make it so that you could actually have a video and follow along with 2 kettlebells, and which was what we were going to experiment with, but your shoulder was sore. So
bitch ass shoulder. It's actually not bad. Like, I can do a lot of things with it. I just don't. I know too many people that have had shoulder surgery, and that's a big one, man.
It is.
Because it's such a complex joint. It articulates in such weird ways. It's so much different than just the hinge joint of the elbow or of the knee.
Oh, yeah.
The shoulder moves, so I don't fuck around with shoulders. No. If I have any shoulder injuries, I treat it right away.
The shoulder blade the scapula actually floats on our rib cage. Like, it's not actually attached to anything.
Yeah.
Just muscles. Like, the only thing that attaches our shoulder to our skeleton is this joint here. Your collarbone. It connects everything. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very complex joint, and it's not so good at getting beat up. You know, when people start having, like Forrest Griffin, former UFC fighter, he can't even brush his teeth. His right hand, like, literally can't brush his teeth with his right hand. He has to brush his teeth with his left. just from fucking his shoulder up, just from fighting through pain.
Right.
It's a big one. Cain Velasquez, another perfect example, the UFC heavyweight champion. I mean, he's actually talked about it. He's got such a high tolerance for pain because he's so tough that he'll have an injury and he'll just work through it and then he'll wind up needing surgery because he just tears his shit apart.
Yeah. Yeah, that it is, and they're just big balls of scar tissue, and I see that every day, probably to a lesser extent than these guys, but to a smaller extent, and just people that sit at a desk all day using a mouse, and the tissues actually adaptively shorten and start to calcify. So then they go and try to take up an exercise program or something, and all of a sudden they're tearing this tissue, so they're always in pain. So,
what's your thoughts on deep tissue massage and rolfing and things along those lines?
Yeah, I think that's what's made our clinic sort of successful. Is we're one of the few physios that's what we specialize in. Versus some places they'll use a lot of machines and fancy stuff like that, and it doesn't work as well as just grabbing onto somebody and breaking that scar tissue out of there. Especially
if they know what they're doing, man. I've had people work on me that are good, and I've had people work on me that aren't so good. And the really good people, they can make a profound change in the way you feel. Like if you have like a tense back or kinked up things or like a constant reoccurring injury, you'd be amazed at how much of it is just like a bound up area that can be broken down. Another thing, Graston, I started doing that recently where they use metal, sort of a rolfing with like metal tools.
Right.
It doesn't feel good, but it feels great after it's done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're getting in, and that tissue is hypersensitive, like 24/7. It's just full of lactic acid, and those nociceptors, those pain receptors, are just constantly sensitized. So, and that stuff just stays in there. It's like tartar on your teeth, unless someone gets in there and blasts that out of there for you.
It's amazing though that you can do that. That a human body, you can actually change the way it feels to the person by just digging into the muscle tissue and breaking it down.
Yeah.
Just elbowing into it and pulling and stretching. Like I have this guy who does. He's brutal, man. I mean, it's unbelievably painful. But when it's over, everything just feels like completely relaxed. Like all these tense areas. And I gotta think that's got to be tremendous for healing.
Oh yeah. And well, what's happened is the fascia has healed together. So you're dealing with muscle fibers they've healed, they're healthy, but it's that covering around them that's literally glued together, calcified together in like a fibrotic state. So if you can find somebody that works that to the point where it actually breaks apart, it feels amazing, and it'll allow you to keep training and not keep re-injuring that spot. So.
Yeah, that's where rolfing actually came from. That woman who created rolfing, I believe her son had cerebral palsy, and she created it to manipulate his soft tissue to give him more range of motion, give him more a pain-free life.
Yeah, it works like a charm.
So when you do that stuff, how often do you do it?
Like on other people?
Or on yourself? How often do you have it done?
I try for once every couple of weeks.
That's it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because if you get rid of it really thoroughly, I've gone through spells where I've had sort of 2 treatments a week for a while. But once you get that crap out of there, it's gone. Like I had a job tree planting for 8 summers while I went through university. And it's a very one-sided job. You've got the shovel in your right hand, you're kicking the tree in with your right foot. You're planting literally thousands of trees a day, and you're walking up mountains with these bags of trees, and it's an intense job, but you get paid per tree. So there's a lot of incentive there to work your butt off.
So why not just switch sides?
It's really, it's almost like writing or something. When you get good with that shovel, you can like weasel in between rocks or find like a little patch of soil. You look for a little blade of grass to slam that shovel into, because it's all about economy. Now, I do know a few guys that messed up their dominant hand and had to learn with the left hand. And they actually did. After about a week of making no money, they actually started, the brain almost just like, that brain plasticity kicked in, and they're like, oh my God. So from then on in, they could like take all the trees out of this bag, switch hands, and so I always thought that would be a good idea to do, but I never did.
Yeah, they say that when you use the dominant side only on any sort of like Steve Maxwell had he had a comparison when it was coming to people that work in football, the kickers, that these kickers are always kicking with their right side, and that they were really getting all these weird back pains and all these strains in their left leg, and all they had to do to get rid of it was start kicking with the left side. So they kick an equal number of times with their left side. And then it was also discovered that when you exercise your non-dominant hand, like if you're doing something with your non-dominant hand, it actually makes the dominant hand skill set better. Like your understanding of whatever you're trying to do, whether it's like executing punches or doing martial arts techniques or something along those lines, when you do it with your non-dominant side, it actually makes your dominant side better.
Yeah, there's even studies taking people in a cast and taking their other arm and lifting weights while this arm's in a cast. They found at the end of 4 weeks or 6 weeks or however long it takes those muscles to atrophy, they've actually lost almost no muscle mass. They didn't even move that arm. It's crazy. Even people visualizing working out with that arm while it's in a cast shows significant improvements in muscle atrophy.
Really?
Yeah.
Visualizing exercise.
Yeah.
That would make sense, I guess, because your body like thinks it's going to do something, and so it like fires up those receptors. No, it doesn't make sense.
Well, it's hard to believe, right?
Because I think that like watching sports would make you better at sports. I get it. Probably does though a little bit.
Mirror neurons.
Yeah, you mirror what the athletes are doing, and you also sort of. I think martial arts, like watch. It's very important if you're in a gym to watch like the best guys, watch like the really high level guys kick and punch and do jiu-jitsu moves, because you see what it should look like.
Yeah.
And it gives you like a high level to aspire to.
Yeah. It's. I have a theory about. We're big on the NHL in Canada. We love hockey.
I never heard that. Canadians like hockey?
Yeah, we love it.
You don't say.
We're actually going to the LA Kings game on Sunday. My son is just over the moon. But anyway, I think that hockey nowadays is so much better because they've got that screen to look at. They look at their replays constantly. Every time you see them looking up at what they just did, and I think, I'm not going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
I think there must be something to that because hockey nowadays, I watched the 1987 Canada Cup where Canada beat Russia. And yeah, I mean, this is Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and the best hockey players. And it looked brutal compared to what it is nowadays. So.
In what way?
Oh, just slower. Slower for one thing. The shots were weaker. It's just a slower game. It was almost like watching one of our beer league games compared to what it is nowadays.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But that's how it is with sports. When there's always innovation. There's always the training methods are expanding and getting better, and there's the understanding of the human body. That's kind of a unique thing about what you do, because exercise and training and strength and conditioning training, it's a constantly evolving business and a constantly evolving discipline.
Yeah, it's so interesting. There's so much information out there, and I love reading it. It's so interesting.
If you were going to say if someone like a Jason McDonald or say like Rory McDonald, some MMA athlete, a high-level athlete came to you and wanted to improve their strength and conditioning, how would you approach training someone like that?
Well, I'd look at because these guys are such high-level athletes, I would look at what they're lacking, what they feel like they're lacking. Like maybe there's something in their ground game that's lacking, or maybe they want more power with their strikes, and give them just enough to enhance what they're doing, but not so much that it's causing them injury or taking away from what they're doing. Because I think overtraining is probably quite prevalent nowadays.
It's very prevalent. It's also overtraining is also prevalent because there's this mindset that more is better, and that you just need to be tougher. You just need to keep pushing, and more is better. But if your body's not recovering, you're not doing any good by keeping going. You're actually doing damage because you're giving your body more of a work. It's like that. You have to have that fine line. You don't want to give your body like a low workload where it doesn't actually reach a high level of intensity and conditioning, but you don't want to give it so much that it never reaches a period of recovery, that it's always constantly dealing with a deficit.
Yeah, and I think these guys are always riding that thin edge. So you have to be really careful before you start integrating something.
So if you have an athlete that came to you and said, listen, man, my power's fine. That's not my issue. My issue is conditioning. I want to be able to have a full gas tank from the first minute of the first round. I want to be able to fight like that at the fifth round in the final minute. Like what do you have them do for things like that?
I would recommend kettlebells, like in the type of training scenario that I've shown on the videos, because I think it teaches you to, like, you do 10 thrusters per side and you're winded, but you have that little bit of wiggle room where you switch hands with a kettlebell. You can take a few deep breaths and then keep going. And it's almost like you learn those respiratory muscles and you learn how to like control that fatigue and keep breathing even through fatigue. And meanwhile, you're still doing the exercises, so you're still exerting yourself. But I love that kind of, I think that carries over so nicely to where you're maybe on the ground and you're gassed, and to get that quick recovery back. So,
what about like flexibility training and range of motion training? Do you participate in those kind of things?
Well, like in order to do an overhead squat, you have to be pretty flexible, and to do a Turkish get-up.
So? In what way?
Well, to get deep.
Flexible?
Yeah, like you have to have
your quads, I guess.
Well, you need your adductors. Hey, you need to almost be able to do, like, I think if you did enough overhead squats, like nice and deep, you'd be able to get close to sort of doing a partial split.
That's funny, because it never that issue because of I did a lot of stretching when I was young, so I've always been pretty flexible. So I never felt like any flexible strain on my flexibility when I do an overhead squats. I would have never thought of it as a flexibility exercise.
Well, and I'm busy working with people that have never done anything, so I can see how their squats improve so quickly. Because a loaded up muscle will always stretch better. So I can see people, their first kettlebell class, doing these, squats that are not that good. And then after a couple sessions, it's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Just opening up and loosening up.
And that's that is one of my favorite exercises, overhead squats. Because if you're not keeping those hips open and you're not doing your stretching and you're not doing your strengthening, that's a hard exercise. That's one of those exercises that tells you, oh yeah, my program's on point. It's good.
Right. Yeah, that's a really unique exercise too, because it's so difficult to keep your arms overhead and hold the weight up and drop all the way down where your ass touches your heels.
Yeah.
And then straighten back up again. It's such a core stabilization exercise.
Yeah. And you can tell people with weak cores because they'll always get a cramp in the opposite side, where if they're holding the kettlebell in their left hand, their right quadratus lumborum will just seize up on them. Hey?
Really?
So they haven't learned yet how to integrate the hip flexors and the abdominals into getting that nice, almost like your own weight training belt in the front. So their QL takes all the load. And that's probably how they go through life, right? Every time they bend over to pick up groceries, or their QL's just doing all the work, and they're not.
I don't ever use weightlifting belts.
No.
I don't, I had a trainer once that told me, he goes, if you need a weightlifting belt, you're lifting too much weights.
Yeah.
What you should do is just strengthen your back and your stomach muscles.
Yeah.
And I sort of took that to heart. And I've never been a big heavyweight guy anyway. Right. I don't really lift that much heavyweight. Like the heaviest weight I lift is 70-pound kettlebells.
Yeah.
I just do one in each hand, and I do most of my workouts like that.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that, and just the leverage that those kettlebells provide, they're trying to pull you forward. It's, that's a lot of weight.
It's my favorite is kettlebell squats with a 70 in each hand. It's just you just so much like stabilization work when you're doing those things.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm consistent and I do those once a week and I do it on a weekly basis for like several months, I just feel a big difference when I'm going to do like martial arts techniques. I just feel a big difference in my ability to keep up the intensity like deep into the rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, to do those, you're tensing everything. Like, you cannot relax for 1 minute. It's such a great exercise. So have you done double thrusters with maybe a lighter weight?
Yeah, I've done double thrusters. I love those.
Those, and I love to combine the double clean with the squat. And I kind of got this idea off a trainer named Dan John. You might have heard of him, but he's into barbell complexes. And so I've sort of taken a few of his ideas in order to lengthen out that set that you're using with it, because you get gassed in a hurry with the double kettlebells. So one of his favorite things is you do 1 clean, 1 squat, 2 cleans, 2 squats, up to 5. And doing that with 2 24s is when you get to like that 5 cleans and you've already been like holding those kettlebells, but it gives you just enough of a break that you can kind of get through that last 5.
24 is, what is it, 52 pounds?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 50-something pounds. These kilograms, pound conversions. The funniest thing is pood. Like, okay,
pood, right?
Yeah,
right.
1 pood and 2 pood. What?
Yeah. It's
come on.
What is it?
Who gives a shit?
16
what it is?
kilos?
I don't care. Pounds, America. Eagles.
Yeah, they
Muscle
switched.
cars, missiles, pounds.
They switched us over to metric when I was about 10 years old.
They
so.
tried when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Well, they were giving it to us, but everybody was like, whatever. They tried for a while. They tried with soccer and they tried with the metric system. Neither one of them worked. Neither one of them worked. Soccer big in Canada?
It's getting bigger.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I think partly because it's not that expensive. Like hockey's expensive to play.
When we were in Alaska this weekend, my friend Mating, who we were up there, he knows a lot about running. And one of the things he was talking about was that runners, they're actually, there's a lot of people that believe that running and stretching, it's not necessary for runners to stretch.
No. And even the world champion, I think the top 3 guys in the world for triathlon right now, and these are the guys that are doing the Ironman distance, they don't, they admit to not stretching. And the one guy's even a physiotherapist. So.
And no stretching.
No.
That's so confusing to me because I always thought that range of motion was like super important and the stretched muscles were healthy muscles.
Yeah, I just took a course from Stuart McGill. I don't know if you heard of him. He's a Canadian guy, but he's actually world renowned now, and he wrote the book Low Back Disorders a few years ago. But he was the first guy. He's actually a mechanical engineer, and so what he's doing is hooking electrodes, like deep needles, into people's psoas muscles, and putting force transducers on their actual spinal bones, and doing study. And he works on animals too. And he's taking these exercises that we've given, and he's actually measuring the force that the muscles produce compared to the shearing force and the compressive force when we're doing these different exercises. And from all of his research, he's finally been sort of vindicated. Like a lot of people when he first came out, like there used to be a thing in physio where if you want your back to be strong, pull your belly button back to your backbone. Mm-hmm. That's the best thing you can do because it's going to engage the transverse abdominis. And he blew that theory out of the water. The transverse abdominis actually will co-contract when you do that Valsalva maneuver. When you're at the bottom of a squat and you come up, that transverse abdominis, it's almost like the rotator cuff will contract really hard if you make a tight fist and do that. So, anyway, I'm getting off track.
So no, please go. He blew it out of the water. How so?
Well, he realized that the transverse abdominis doesn't engage by tensing up your sphincter muscles of your butt and you're pulling your belly button back.
Doesn't?
It doesn't. So, and I think it came. There was a study in Australia many years ago where they were doing ultrasound studies of people's psoas muscles, and they found that there was some psoas and multifidus activation when you did these specific exercises where you're pulling the belly button back toward your spine. So don't do that if you lift heavy.
So what should you do? Just tighten up everything and keep a good posture?
Yeah, tighten everything up. Like they call it breathing against the shield.
Like that. Yeah. But so don't suck in.
Don't suck in.
That's sucking in. Isn't it weird though when things like become common practice, then it turns out they were horse shit, and then everybody sort of abandons them?
Yeah, and but a lot of these things they kind of prove if you have done some lifting what you kind of knew. Like it just feels unnatural, I think, to pull your belly button back to your spine. If I'm doing yoga, it feels right. But if I'm lifting a heavy weight, I want to tense up and get everything tight. So.
Right. If you're doing yoga and you're doing those crazy breath things, like, have you ever seen Hicks and Gracie's Choke? You ever seen that documentary?
No.
No? How dare you? You need to get that documentary right now. He does these crazy breathing exercises where, he's like sucking his stomach in like all the way and moving it around like back and forth. You ever seen anybody do that?
Yeah. I guess like you can cure constipation with that kind of thing.
Really? Or X-Lax, a cup of coffee. You need to get crazy.
Yeah, but I guess they can
have a better
actually
diet. You fucking.
But yeah, I guess they can actually, manipulate the waste products through the large intestine using their own abdominal muscles.
Kind of makes sense. You're pushing everything around.
Yep.
It kind of seems like it would aid in the digestion. Some people have this idea that you should eat like smoothies in the morning because smoothies, like vegetable smoothies especially, they sort of lube up the pathway, and then everything coming afterwards will have an easy ride through the body's digestive system.
That sounds feasible.
Yeah. So why doesn't stretching, getting back to that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So he's all about the concept of super stiffness. And I think it's a term he might have coined, but with athletes, he's all about having the core stiff so that and I don't mean stiff where you can't pick up your wallet or something, but stiff to the point where it's always sort of all these abdominal and postural muscles are on high alert, so that when you do throw a punch or something, they kick in all at once. And he claims that from his studies, excessive stretching of the core and the hips and the shoulders, that you lose that nice tightness. You lose that nice normal sort of resiliency between the core and the extremities.
That's interesting, but the only thing that I would take issue with is that I think that a lot of power comes from the range of motion and the flexibility, like especially when it comes to kicking.
Yeah.
Like that's all like whipping the body around. Like there's a lot of power involved in having a long range of motion.
Well, his thing is your core should be stiff, but if you are in a kicking sport, you need to have the hips. The hips need to be mobile.
But your core is a big part. If your core is stiff, it seems like the more back flexibility that you have, the more you can execute things with less resistance.
Yeah, I think he's all about having that. It's like a natural weight belt around your hips. And
but what sport does he engage in?
Well, I think he has worked. He did say he has worked with some mixed martial artists. So.
I wonder what would happen if you worked with a mixed martial artist that was like a kicking specialist, like a Machida or an Anderson Silva or something like that. Like, wonder if they would change their tune if they saw like how much flexibility is necessary to pull off certain things, like wheel kicks,
right?
You know, things along those lines where your whole body is like moving in a very anything that where you're resisting and there's like tension and
yeah.
You know.
Well, and I think there is. I guess maybe he's advocating not excessive flexibility in the trunk. Like he's bigger on having this nice core control, but I don't.
Are they mutually exclusive?
I don't think so.
Can you have like a strong core and still a flexible core?
I think so. Yeah, I think he just doesn't like excessive stretching.
It seems to me that there's different requirements that different sports have. Like what you would need to be a very good shot putter, you need a completely different set of physiological skills or strengths to be, you know, a jiu-jitsu player or, you know, a judo person or a karate master or whatever the fuck it is. It's like it's almost like the people who are training you have to be skilled in those areas.
Yeah, I agree. And like I don't think anyone doing sort of body work and soft tissue work, I think they should all have some sort of foundation in some type of weight training or some type of exercise where they're going through those same processes themselves, because then I think it gives you a really nice innate understanding of what you're dealing with. When you get a person on your table, you're like, oh, I can relate to that, you know.
Do you do sport-specific DVDs? I mean, I know you've done how many DVDs so far? Just those two?
Just the two.
The extreme kettlebell workouts?
Yeah.
Which are my favorite, dude. They're awesome.
Thanks.
They really are my favorite because you're in fucking shape. I mean, you do it along with everybody. Like, there's no faking that. And the intensity is absolutely real.
Yeah, you know, the first video, it's an interesting story, but I'm a bit of a procrastinator. And so we were in Mexico when we filmed that one. And we actually, I had to walk forever to find a part of the beach where there's not a ton of people around. And so I had my backpack on. And just to get the kettlebell to Mexico was hard.
Yeah, right?
It's like, what is this thing? You want to take this? You know, and fortunately, it was 20 kilograms. And that's what they kind of allowed on the plane.
Was that 45 pounds, 44 pounds?
Yeah, I think 44 or something like that. And so I had my backpack, so I just logged my backpack into the fragile luggage. But we walked down to the end of this beach, and the wife and kids and me, and my wife was the camera person. And I found this, I walked as far as I could until there was like this big black reef and all these rocks and everything. And I'm like, well, this is as far as I can go. And so you'd see the odd person walking down to the end, then walking back. But you couldn't be too close to the ocean because the waves are so loud. And so we found this big rock that my wife could kind of hide behind with a camcorder, because the wind is, it was windy. And so 2 days before we left to go home, I'm like, I've got it. Like, I've got the masterpiece, like all the best ideas. And I was like, every day I'd be like fine tuning things and trying them out. And I'm like, I'm ready to do it. And I'm going to do it all in one shot because I want it to be the real deal. Just like a kettlebell class.
Right.
Because I think it's like 58 minutes, and I didn't even time that. It was just luck. Because I've taught so many 1-hour classes in my life that it was just like instinct. And so yeah, and all my favorite workouts were kind of on this first DVD at the time. And so we went there, filmed it, got back to the place. I buried the kettlebell on the beach because I thought...
You buried it on the beach?
Well, because I thought if there's any problems, then I don't have to carry this thing. Because I must have walked like 3 miles or something with this thing on my back, and it was like, and I had to walk through these different resorts all the way down the beach with my backpack. And
so you like X marks the spot. If you have to come back, you can just go do it again.
Yeah, I found made a little notch on the rock and buried this thing like pretty deep. I mean, I was paranoid. I thought someone's going to steal my kettlebell, but
I don't think it would be stealing. It would be finding. If they came to your house, it would be stealing. You know, you can't like leave your kettlebell on the beach and go, somebody stole it. No, it's fucking left it there, dude. They took it.
And actually, when we were in Hawaii, I did bury my kettlebell on the beach because I'm too lazy to take it back up to the room. And there's these guys with the
metal detectors,
and there's one guy. He's like, he'll always give me a wave. He's like, because there were a couple times where he's digging this thing up, and I'm like, oh, that's my kettlebell. And he's like, oh yeah, okay.
So you just leave it on the beach buried, and then you come back and dig it up the next day and work out with it?
Yeah.
You're lazy, bro. Just carry that thing back to your goddamn room. Wouldn't it be an extra workout to carry it up to your room?
The farmer's walk.
Yeah.
An exceptional. And apparently the farmer's walk with one weight is far superior than doing it with 2 weights.
Really? Yeah. Why is that?
Because of that co-contraction on the opposite side. That's what Stuart McGill said.
So when you do the farmer's walk, do you do X amount of paces with the right side, then switch it to the left side?
I think you're supposed to do that, yeah. So
that's interesting that it's superior if you're holding it on one side. I would have thought just the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. I would have thought it would be superior to have it equally balanced, one weight on each side.
Well, it's kind of like when you go to the gym and you see guys working on their obliques, and they've got like the heavy dumbbells in each hand. It's kind of like this one's pulling you this way and this one's pulling you that way. And I always thought, is that as good as just having one and doing it on one side and then doing it on the other? It's kind of like almost helps pull it over.
What's your take on two-handed windmills? Because that's one of the exercises that I really love. I love windmills with a kettlebell in each hand, and then when you drop the kettlebell down, you do a curl with that kettlebell.
What do they call it? The two hands anyhow.
Yeah, is that what they call it? Two hands anyhow? Yeah. What a dumb name.
You never heard that?
No, okay. But I like it. I like that exercise. It's a big one.
That's an excellent exercise. And imagine the amount of force you're putting on the core compared to just one kettlebell.
Well, when I hurt my back from jiu-jitsu, I really started concentrating more on back exercises and core exercises and strengthening exercises because I recognized that it was this injury that I was getting in jiu-jitsu was a weak link injury. It's like there was a weak link in my chain, and the weak link was the core, my back.
Right.
I wasn't doing enough curls, or not curls, chin-ups rather, rows. I wasn't doing enough back exercises, and I switched my workouts to almost primarily that, as opposed to primarily pushing, like benching and things along those lines.
Yeah, the two hands anyhow, that's a great... And you know, that's just, since we're on the subject of windmills, that is one exercise that sometimes I see people going too deep with. Like you should there's that depth where it feels like your hamstrings are going to snap, and I think that's where some people, they'll take it just a little bit further so that they can touch the floor or the ground or whatever. If you can make sure that you're aware of where your body's ending up and keep that core tight, because there's that point where you get to the point where, okay, my hamstrings, that's as far as they're going to go, and then there's that little extra. If you can stop short of that so that you maintain that nice super stiff core, you probably already do that, but some people that don't have as much flexibility, and I watched myself on the video the other day, I was doing some homework, and I'm going a little deeper than I should on some of those windmills just because I'm trying to look cool, but for health-wise and longevity-wise, if you can make sure that you maybe even check yourself in a mirror once in a while, make sure that your back doesn't move at all at the very bottom of that windmill.
Is that the case? Like sort of like how dips, you're not supposed to go too low on dips.
Yeah.
If you go too low, you put too much stress on the shoulders and too much stress on the tendons.
The front of that shoulder capsule, hey, you're just it's in a vulnerable position, hey. So if you can go down to the point where you feel like if I go any further, I'm just resting on my connective tissue. If you can stop short of that, you'll keep that tension on the muscles, and it's. But then there's an argument that your body should be able to do that. You want to put your body into that stressful position, make those connective tissues stronger. So
sort of like a low squat, like dropping your body all the way down to your heel.
So I wouldn't say never do windmills nice and deep, but if you're doing a lot of windmills, be aware of how much of your back you're using at the very bottom portion. But mind you, that's a good thing with kettlebells. Most people aren't using so much weight that they have to worry about that. Like even someone that's really advanced, Usually, like, they're not using much more than 40 pounds or something like that. So.
For windmills?
Well, I mean, for part of the video. Like, part of, like, the extended workouts.
Oh, for your workouts, yeah. Well, when I do your workouts, I do the windmill with, I usually do 35 pounds or 45 pounds. But when I do windmills just as a standalone, I do 70s.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a really great exercise for shoulder stability as well.
Yeah. What about with get-ups? Do you go pretty heavy on those, too?
Yeah, I like to do get-ups with 70.
You can. It's such a neat exercise because you can go super heavy and just... really give her on that.
Well, it seems to me like a really good stability exercise, like as far as like your ability to maintain your stance, maintain your like pushing on things, holding your ground. I mean, you're doing such a weird exercise. You stand like that, and it's so control based, like dropping down, laying flat, holding the kettlebell up, pressing it all over again.
Yeah.
It's a very good, slow, controlled exercise. Keeps everything solid.
Yeah, I love that one. So anyway, I looked at the video that we had taken that day, and my wife is so honest. I love that about her. And she looked at it and she's like, "You're doing it way too fast. People aren't going to be able to keep up to this." And I'm like, oh, and I did not want to do this again, right? And of course I left it till the last day. And I'm like, oh, let me take a look at that. And so I'm like, oh God, that is fast. I'm just trying to get this over with. That looks terrible. And
too fast, like too fast, like an ineffective workout, or too hard to do?
I think for a lot of people, maybe a little bit too little time between repetitions. Yeah, a little bit too fast. And
but shouldn't they aspire to be able to do it the way you're doing it?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing like an advanced version for fucking people like me? Studs?
I will. Well, that's where the double kettlebell one's going to come up with. You're going to love that.
Okay. Maybe I'm not going to. It'll eat my words.
And then I put it on the TV with the little cables. And the wind noise was insane. It was like you couldn't hear a thing.
So you had to do it again?
Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, God, we got to go back there tomorrow. I don't not only have to do 1 or 2 chapters over again, I have to do the whole thing over again. And I had, like, wicked sand rash on my wrists. Like
from the kettlebells hitting your wrist?
Yeah. And my hands were pretty toughened up, so they were okay. But I'm just like, oh, man, this is going to... So that's why there's certain times during that video where I look like I'm going to die. I am. Like, I'm suffering. So I hope that came out on the video, because like I hope people watch this and say, like, this is legit. Like, this guy's like suffering with me, you know.
Definitely, you're working hard. You're definitely. Well, it's impossible to not be. It's it's a brutal series of exercises. It's awesome. Listen, dude, we're out of time, man. But your videos are awesome. I'm a huge fan. I'm really happy that you came on here. I hope more people buy them. You can buy them at onnit.com. ONNIT. We sell them there. You have them on your website too. What's your website? If people want to go to it.
WeberPhysiotherapy.ca.
Weber Physical Physio.
We're Canadian, you know.
Oh, that's why it's .ca.
Yeah.
Don't go to .com. What happens if you go to WeberPhysio.com?
I don't know. I've never
should
tried.
buy that. Too late. Someone's got it now. Someone's got it, and it's filled with dicks. It's all just black dicks, guareed. Thank you very much, brother. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so
Keith
much for
Weber,
having me,
ladies and
Joe.
gentlemen, and Weber Physio on Twitter. You can check out all of his videos again on onnit.com and WeberPhysio.com. Thank you very much, brother. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Keith Weber, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you to our sponsors. Thanks to LegalZoom. Go to LegalZoom.com and use the code word Rogan at checkout to save yourself some money. Thanks also to Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com. Enter in the code word JRE for your $110 bonus offer, which includes a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. And thanks also to... What's today? Ting?
Yes.
Ting. Yep. Go to rogan.ting.com and save yourself $25 off of any device. Today wasn't Audible too, was it?
Nope.
No Audible.
Yes.
Yes.
No, yeah.
Audible.com/Joe.
Indeed.
Get a free book. Get a free audio book. 30 free days of Audible service. All right, that's it. Anthony Cumia coming up. See you soon. Big kiss. Blah. Hopefully for the people listening.